Hi, I'm Bart Hanson. I'm the owner and lead instructor for CrushLivePoker.com. The following hand comes from our call-in show that we record every Mondays at 4:45 p.m. Pacific Time. If you enjoy the channel, please hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel. Turn notifications on and you will get an email link with this full episode. And if you want to submit to this show, take a look at the information in the description.
Yeah, I do. I have a hand that I played at the Palm Beach Casino in Mayfair, London. It's a £10, £20 game where there was a £40 straddle on for most of the night.
All right, so 10, 20 pound, right?
Yeah.
But it was mostly straddled to 40 pounds, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
In this hand, it was straddled to a £40. Yes.
Okay.
So I was in middle position with Queen of Diamonds, Queen of Clubs, and I raised to 150.
Can you just speak up a little bit, Sean? You're a little bit low. How deep are you guys? Did you say 9,000?
Yes.
9,000 effective?
Yeah, 9,700 affected.
All right, great. So 9,700 effective. Okay.
So yeah, I'm in middle position with Queen of Diamonds, Queen of Clubs, and I raised to 150.
So hero in MP1, Queen of Diamonds, Queen of Clubs, and raise to 150. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Button calls and the big blind calls.
And is this a full hand, like a 9-handed game, basically?
It was an 8-handed game. Yeah.
8-handed game. Oh, that's good.
8-handed. Yeah.
They play it 8-handed.
They did. Yeah.
That's
there was. I mean, there was nine. It was 9-handed, but
most
of the time there was one person or two people missing.
Oh, okay. That's how it kind of is mostly in LA games too, right? Because like you don't. One of the other things too that I realized is traveling around playing, there's a lot of third man walking rules, which is really good. They just never do that in LA. And because it's a drop game, people just get up and leave, so it's rarely 9-handed. And these guys just like get up and leave when it starts getting short. So you've got queens and MP1, raise to 150, button calls, big blind calls. The straddle is obviously on, right?
Yeah, the straddle folds. The straddle's on and he folds. Yeah.
Okay, so 3 ways, right?
Yeah, 3 ways. The
Okay.
pot's 520, and the flop comes King of Clubs, Queen of Spades, Jack of Diamonds.
King of Clubs, Queen of Spades, Jack of Diamonds.
Jack of Diamonds.
So you flop middle set.
Yeah. Flop middle set.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
The big blind now checks, and I bet 220. And the button calls, and the big blind folds. Now, I wanted to ask you, first of all, do you think that's too small?
The button calls and the big blind folds. Is that right?
Correct.
Button calls, big blind folds. This is where I got confused when you sent me the hand in a little bit, Sean. Cause
I made a mistake.
Yeah, because the positions
I kept on writing big blind.
Yeah. The positions.
But it was button.
Yeah. This is interesting because I wonder if this flop. I mean, I would bet here almost always against live competition, right? Like unless you were playing like some sort of crazy crushers, right?
Right.
But again, but you probably have 9-10 suited and ace-10 suited, so I'll actually take that back. From MP1, if you're opening 9-10 suited and ace-10 suited, you have all the nuts here. So which you are opening ace-10 suited and 9-10 suited, you're going to have more. You have a nut advantage, you have a range advantage, because the guy on the button's supposed to be 3-betting off some kings and queens, right? Like a lot of kings, a lot of queens, a lot of jacks. You have them all. He has partials, if any. And then you have all the 9-10 suiteds and the ace-10 suiteds, and probably even at more of a frequency than he does, because he's probably supposed to 3-bet some of those off too, although he can flat on the button. So you've got everything here. So at first I was looking at this, and then I was like, well, do you ever check here? But if we're looking at it from sort of a high-stakes theory perspective, then no, you wouldn't be. If the board was like 5, 6, 7, and you had like, say, pocket 6s, pocket 7s, something like that, you might occasionally, as a balance, do that, but I don't think you can do so on this board. So you bet 220.
Can I ask though? In terms of the sizing, like, would you? Because I feel like this was a mistake here. I bet so small. Like, I bet less than half pot.
Yeah, I think you could probably go larger for sure and reflect the fact. But again, we get into this sort of whole like cat and mouse game where you're allowed to bet larger because your opponents are supposed to have to defend wider, because they're going to end, like if a guy has like king 9 suited here on the button, like he's just going to have to go almost to the end with that. And that's the theory behind why
Right.
you're allowed to bet larger, because they have to defend wider. Because you have such an advantage on this board, you're just allowed to go larger. You ended up going about half the size. I might bet like maybe 300 or something. So you bet 220.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, button calls, big blind
Um,
folds.
so button calls, yeah,
Yeah.
big blind falls. Pot's now 960,
Yeah.
and the turn is the 10 of hearts, which for me kind of killed the action.
Wow,
I
that's
decided to
interesting.
check,
So it's a total
and the
rainbow
button checked
board.
behind.
So it's a total rainbow
Yeah.
board. King, queen, jack. Turn is a 10. And so it puts a one-liner out there to a 9. And obviously
To an ace. Yeah.
to an ace. It's kind of interesting. I mean, I guess you're opening from MP1. I just wonder how many ace X here he can have. And then for that matter, how does he have a 9? Really, all that much here either, because he called next to act, unless he flopped 9-10 and just called with it. Like, he's not going to call. I'm trying to think of the absolute bottom parts of pre-flop calling range on the button that calls flop. I guess king 9 suited. I don't think he's supposed to call with jack 9 when you bet, and then there's a guy behind him. And how does he have an ace here? He could call on the button, I guess, with like an ace queen and then have to continue. So I guess he has some small
I mean, he
slivers
could have
of aces.
ace jack here as well, right?
Yeah,
He
I
could have
mean,
had ace
calling
jack.
next to act with a guy behind, it seems somewhat suspect because the big blind is in there, but I just don't think it's all that represented. But I do think that you're probably going to be forced to check here on the turn, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the pot's still 960, and the river now comes the king of diamonds.
So you check, and he checks behind. Is that right?
He checks behind, yeah.
All right,
correct.
so hero
yeah.
checks, and button checks behind. Okay.
Yeah, and now the river is the king of diamonds, which we bowed up. So here I'm now thinking about sizing, obviously trying to value bet. And the only thing I didn't tell you at the beginning was this is a very competent, good player. And I decided to bet 780
So the
into
pot
960.
the pot's 960, right? Let's see here. 960.
Right.
And you bet hero bets 780. This is a really, really interesting spot because, boy, Sean, I don't know how you get into a lot of these spots. Incredible hands.
I know, they're horrible.
because when he checks back the turn, what hands did he call the flop with that checks back the turn if he's usually betting off with most of his aces, which he should be? And then,
right, so
it's like he can't. Is he calling with a 9 here at the end? So let's just go with the assumption that he doesn't have an ace or a 9. So what is he calling the flop with, right?
right.
So like a king 10 would be one. A hand like jack 10 and queen 10, those hands aren't going to call a bet. So, man, I wonder if the play ever here is to check, because he has to turn some of those hands into bluffs that are counterfeit. I mean, that's just sort of like,
Right.
I mean, I know that your absolute hand strength looks like kind of strong, but when you look at this particular hand, again, he's not arriving with a lot of 9s. I don't know if he's going to call this sizing with a 9. I don't think he's calling with a lot of 9s anyways if you come out and bet. We're basically dismissing the fact that he has aces with a check back on the turn, so it sort of leaves a couple hands that you lose to, and then a couple hands that sort of are counterfeited pair plus 10s that may feel like that they need to bluff. Or, I mean, I guess you could maybe block. I guess you could block, like almost like block and deuce. The problem here with like having, if you check and he's got queen 10, he might think he has enough showdown value, queen 10, jack 10 to just check it back. But if you block the end here and you bet like 250, see, the more I'm thinking through this, the more maybe I like a block here to induce. If you block the end, you might get a crying call or you might induce, and obviously you would have to call off. I don't know about the sizing though. I probably like a
Right.
block sizing here, to be honest with you, when I'm looking at this on paper.
Well, I actually achieved an induce, which was pretty terrible in the moment, because he when I bet 780, he thought about it for about a minute, and then he made it 3,600 to go.
So wow, that's on. So
Point,
you bet 780 and he made it 3,600. That's
he made
crazy.
3,600.
That
Yeah.
wow, that's like. Would he ever do? But I mean, that's crazy because.
I mean, the only hands that I could put him on then in that particular moment was King Jack and King 10, for example, that had turned two pair on the turn,
Right.
and now had boated up, and obviously King Jack, which now is is the second nuts basically.
Well, yeah, but those are two viable. So let's say that he's calling. Maybe he's not calling like King 10 offsuit, but let's say that he's calling button sometimes with King Jack offsuit. There's probably like 4 or 5 combos of King Jack. There's one like King Jack. Well, there's one King Jack suited here. King of Diamonds is out there. King of Clubs is out there. So there's 2 King Jack suiteds. King of Spades, Jack of Spades, and King of Hearts, Jack of Hearts. And then let's throw in like maybe another 2 offsuit partial calls on the button. 4 combos of King Jack, and then you've got 2 combos of King 10 suited. So that's 6 combos that you lose to. And I think that all those hands are played in this manner, in that way. King Jack and King 10.
Right.
And then you look at the other side of like, well, is he valuing something, which would be like pocket jacks that didn't 3-bet off or pocket 10s? And is he even raising at the end? I mean, I guess it's possible. I mean, you looked at, that's like 6 combos, but I think that the King Jack to King 10 ratio is much larger, even though it's 6 and 6, as the way of what a competent player would play it. I don't know if jacks or 10s are raising at the end here, and then they have to get here with not 3-betting pre-flop too, whereas the King Jack and the King 10 is a viable source either way. I mean, 780 to 960 also too, I think that in live poker this spot is incredibly under-bluffed as well. I mean, like, what is he bluffing with here? I mean, like, again, it would almost have to be like turning like a Jack 10 or Queen 10 like into bluff. 780 into 960, the pot is like, what is that? That's 1740. So it's like, let's see, 1740 and 36. It's like 5,400, like 2,800 for you to call, something like that. Is that right?
Yeah.
28, 54, 28 for you to call. 54, 28 for you to call. So you're getting like 2 to 1.
2 to 1.
I mean, you're pretty high up in your range here. I mean, here's the thing: like when you default back.
Thing. I mean, in real time, I thought to myself, if I have jacks here, I'm going to fold. The hand that I'm going to call with, and this is a crying call, is queens. Really, I mean, I wasn't confident calling with queens, but I mean, I couldn't lay down queens here. I just thought.
I mean, you just have to look at this situation, and you're like, is there a chance 1 out of 3 times here that I have the best hand? But you called in like a couple months, what is it, like last month with that King 9 versus King 10 hand too, right? Yeah. You get into these cooler spots here.
I do, yeah. I mean, this was fortunate. He actually happened to have pocket 10s here, and as soon as I said call, he was like, before I said when I said call, he said good hand. He turned over his pocket 10s, so I knew that he had turned his 10s into a bluff.
You think he turned his 10s into a bluff?
Yeah, he turned his pocket 10s into a bluff, yeah. He boated up and he turned his 10s into a bluff.
To bluff what? Jacks or queens?
He put me on jack. He said to me, I thought you had jacks. That's what he told me that he thought I had.
I mean, that's some pretty high level stuff. If he thinks that you're going to fold... and he's saying that he's turning 10-10 into a bluff. I mean, I don't know how often I see somebody try to turn like a smaller boat. What's up?
Straight away, as soon as I said call, he was like, good hand. He turned over his 10s and he just said, good hand.
No, I mean, I believe you. I just think that it's kind of far up for him to turn into a bluff. By the way, there's one of the other things that just didn't come off to me is that he could have king queen here too, right? I think that just kind of threw me off because you have pocket queens. There's like, if he's calling with king, if he could be calling here with king queen offsuit, there's one queen left in the deck, and now two king. This is like two combos of king queen as well.
I think so like 7 or 8 decent combos.
Yeah, I mean, there's like 7 or 8 decent combos that beat you here, and then if you have to stretch down to him either overvaluing his hand or turning a full house into a bluff. I mean, hey, listen, like if you're up against a competent player, sometimes when you're that far up in your range and you're getting a price, you just sort of like side call. I mean, I've seen art on Live at the Bike. I'm gonna probably do a hand this week where he lost a hand to Lynn, where he made a flush and Lynn raised the river, and I think that he didn't take it back to the street. He tries to play too like close to equilibrium sometimes, where equilibrium play would say this is a bet call, but like when you're making like in live poker and you're looking at a specific situation that's under bluffed, sometimes you can make an exploitable fold. But that's interesting.
I just felt in this situation it was so polarized that I mean there wasn't many hands that I could have that I could actually call that raise there. Like realistically, it should be just pocket kings and maybe pocket queens, and even sometimes I think some people would lay down queens there.
Did you say that you snap called, by the way?
Hand,
did you snap
No,
call?
I didn't snap call.
Oh.
No.
Because somebody said that if you snapped, then he was value owning himself, and then he just claimed it was a bluff. But it didn't sound to me like you. It didn't sound to me like you snap called. So that's.
No, I took about 2 minutes to make a decision. I was close to.
That's.
I just thought it out and thought, it's one of those hands I gotta just bite down and call, and whatever happens, happens.
That's interesting. Well, I mean, you can't be that far off when you've got like a really strong hand. You know what I mean? And you're getting a price and you don't know what to do. But I appreciate the call, Sean, as always. Thank you very much. Hey guys, if you like what you've seen here, please click on the subscribe button and you'll get notified every time we put up a new video. And if you want to check out crushlivepoker.com for the first month free, use the code YTA200. Click on the link right there.